Hello, beautiful people. My name is Marika Gare, and this is the Inspiration Trilogy, a platform for women across the globe to share wisdom, advice, and just have some meaningful conversations on a variety of topics for the everyday woman. So today's guest is Kylie Poole, who is a mum of four, which is a feat itself, a homeopath and an owner of a Wild Herb Lady. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Look, it's great to have you here today. Do you want to tell listeners out there a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been a homeopath for the last 16 years. Wow. I was actually extremely lucky where I had a grandmother who was into all things natural medicine. She did kinesiology, touch for health, color therapy, Orosoma, homeopathy, like you name it, she did it. She was amazing. So as I grew up, when we were unwell and stuff, we always got homeopathics. And because obviously of her influence, my parents always took me to naturopaths and, so it was very much a part of my upbringing.
Yeah.
And then I started to suffer with really kind of low self-esteem, suicidal stuff from abuse that I had experienced as a teenager.
Oh my gosh.
And so that kind of led me to a homeopath. And I got the most amazing success through her treatment that I was like, right, that's it. I'm studying homeopathy.
Wow, because I think most people, if they're going through some kind of trauma or challenging situation, obviously they might approach a psychologist or their GP or something and look at some medications. But a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have the first thought to go to a homeopath. So,
yeah,
what kind of things can homeopath offer and the benefits out for all these kinds of ailments and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so and you're really right. Most people would not go to like a homeopath as their first protocol, but I was very anti-medicine. I was very anti-doctors after the experiences that I had. I just never ever felt listened to when I went to a doctor, and it was like, here, take a pill, see you later. Yeah. And that never worked for me. And I think I always recognized that. So basically, homeopathy can help with everything. This is where it is so amazing. It's one of the most utilized medicines across the world, second to like obviously orthodox medicine. So it's actually, there's homeopathic hospitals in India where they treat everything. So it's used widely in epidemic treatment in places like Brazil and Chile and things like that, where they actually don't have the money to use pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Wow, so, I didn't realize that. That's amazing. Because, a lot of pharmaceuticals, while they can be, I'm not dissing any industry or anything in any way, but, each to their own. But I know that with because I'm on a lot of medications myself, you have long-term side effects or issues or liver damage. So there's something that comes with it, fixes one thing, but it brings other stuff. And that's kind of that's kind of where I'm at with my journey, my medicine journey, because I've got chronic illness I've had from a very young age, and I've got other issues that are coming up. But a lot of the issues are related to long-term medication use. So I'm now looking at moving more towards as natural as I can, which is what I've always wanted to. But I did have to try certain things. But yeah, so look, I think it's just there's so many benefits that people may not be aware of, which is why they're using them. It's natural remedies from our earth. So what remedies do you have? What does it involve exactly for people who may not know exactly what the word homeopathy means?
So homeopathy works on a system of medicine that was created over 200 years ago. And it was actually created by a general practitioner who was sick of the effects of medicine at the time. So obviously at that time they were using crude doses of things. And he was like, this is just making my patients sicker. And what he realized was when you took minute doses, that it actually and you took them as a healthy person, it would create a whole lot of symptoms. And so he knew then if he gave that to a sick person with those symptoms, it would actually alleviate that. So that is the principle of like cures like, which is what homeopathy is based on. And so we have over 4,000 remedies.
Yeah.
And we can pretty much treat anything. Like the scope of what I treat on a day-to-day basis is huge. So like whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's like lack of boundaries, whether it's mother's rage, whether it's, kids having like excessive tantrums. I do lots and lots of work with autistic patients who, are literally like not progressing and stuff. And you start to watch them like come out of their shell. And then down to things like, nighttime coughs, daytime coughs, croup, earaches, like pretty much anything that you get symptoms from, we can prescribe, because that's what we look at. We look at your symptoms.
Yeah.
So every single person is going to need something different, because you could have two people come in for anxiety, but their anxiety are related to completely different things. So they would need different remedies.
Okay, so when someone comes to you, you not just do assessment of their physical ailments, but also their emotional and mental, I guess, where they are in that space?
Absolutely, because it's all related.
Yeah.
Orthodox medicine is very much like, your heart is disconnected to your lungs. Your brain is disconnected to your hands. Well, no, everything is connected. So everything has a flow on. And what we find is that generally, if you have a disruption of your mental health, you will have disruption in your body, because our body has like a physical response to what we're not dealing with mentally and emotionally.
And a lot of it can come down to self-love or perception of self through various experiences in life and trauma and things like that. And it's quite interesting, because I was reading something the other week, how they were saying that the neuro energy in the brain, I can't think of the right words, I'm having one of those moments. Yeah, but the heart actually has similar, if not more, in itself, more than the brain, which is so interesting, because, and it really makes sense. They say that, with the older generation, when one of them passes off, quite often another one can pass soon after, and they say it's of a broken heart. But it's really interesting, because it's so much of your heart energy. It flows through obviously your brain and your whole body, and it can affect everything. So it really, a lot of it, I mean, this is only my thoughts, comes down to perception of self and self-love and things like that.
Absolutely.
And it's just amazing that what our body is capable of with, and what our natural remedies, what this earth provides to us. We don't need chemicals. They're man-made. Yes, some of them are, I guess, necessary. Everybody has their own view, but I think the world is kind of changing at the moment, and there's a lot of people who are moving more towards the natural path, and because they want to eliminate all those chemicals we put in our body, even shampoos, soaps, perfume, makeup, everything puts a little bit of chemicals in our body, and over time that builds up hugely. And now there's so many illnesses, there's cancer everywhere, there's all these sorts of things. Not saying that any of that necessarily causes it, but I think
it's the accumulative effect of it, like everything, like you're saying, it's in everything. So if you're getting it from all of these sides, and our bodies aren't designed to, process those things, then it's going to affect us. And I think you're right. Like, modern medicine has its place. If I break a bone, I need a surgeon to put it back together. It has its place. But when it comes to chronic health issues, there is so little that can be done, except here's a medication that's going to do this. But it's also, like you said, going to give you a range of side effects that you then have to deal with. Whereas and
long-term damage too, not just side effects, like long-term damage to your other organs.
Absolutely. Whereas when you come to a homeopath, there's so much that we can do. And the best thing about it is it stimulates your body to fix itself.
Mm.
you know, which our bodies have an innate ability to do. They are designed to heal themselves when
Yeah.
given the right tools to do that. So I think you're right. I think for so long, people have trusted in, like, you know, the government, the authorities, what they've said, go do this, go do that, you know, this is the pathways you take. Where I think nowadays people are really going, you know what? There are other ways, and I don't trust what you say anymore. So I'm going to seek out other things.
They're
And
really
then they get
questioning.
yeah, and then they get success, and they see how amazing, like, homeopathy has just been absolutely ridiculed in this country. And yet you go overseas and you look at it thriving in other countries, and it's because they recognize how amazing it actually is and the depths of the things it can actually do.
Yeah. I think this kind of thing has been, like you say, it's really been kind of pushed down by society for such a long time, but there's so many benefits. And the same with CBD oil. You know, a lot of people have been, it just hasn't been commonplace. But as someone who suffers from a lot of pain, it is just a miracle.
Yeah.
It's extremely expensive, which makes it hard for anyone to really, who needs it, to access it. But
Yes.
it has no, for most people, my understanding is it has no side effects. There's no long-term damage to your liver, your kidneys, or anything else. It is a better pain management than most pharmaceuticals. And I've tried them all because I do suffer from pain. Like I said, for the last, 35 years, I've been in lots of pain. But so, and it is just, it's a natural product. But they don't, I guess, it's not something that's going to make them a lot of money. They are trying. It's very expensive. But, these sorts of things, if they were made commonplace to the everyday person, and things like homeopathy, more awareness around it, and have it sort of flourishing in our communities, it would change so many things. So I think it's really important to get that information out there. So just for listeners out there, I also want to explore. So you also do women's circles, rites of passage. You're very much in, I can't remember the word that you used. Was it womb cycle knowledge?
Yeah, womb wisdom.
Womb wisdom.
Wisdom. Yeah.
So do you want to tell listeners a little bit about that and what you do there? Because that's obviously a very important topic for the listeners out there.
I think the fact is, along with the same things what we were saying, the way we've grown up so disconnected from our innate wisdom as women, our cycles. We used to literally cycle with the moon season, or the like the 28 days.
Yeah.
We still do cycle with that, but literally we would go out and our bodies would sync with the natural seasonal cycles.
Yeah.
And we have moved so far away from that as life has become more disconnected. And you realize, like, you talk to women and they don't even know the basis of how their cycle works, or how they can live in tune with it to actually harness their energy better.
Yeah. Because we've lived in a male-dominated world for so long, and this kind of stuff has just 100%. Been hush, hush, don't talk about that. That's embarrassing, or that's this, that. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist and go away. So, and that's absolutely a very long way back, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very important to make that knowledge, sort of, to bring that out, especially for young women coming through to womanhood now. So with your initiation and rites of passage and things like that, what would someone experience if they came to have that sort of session with you?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things for me with the rites of passage is basically to bring that honoring back of these times where we transition as women. So, we have our first transition into life as our birth. And then the next transition is basically when we go from being a girl to being a woman, when we get our periods.
Yeah.
And then from that, we then go into being a mother, and then into a marga, and then into a crone.
Yeah.
And, to honor these different phases through our lives, and to bring back that real connection to us, to the women around us.
Yeah.
To their knowledge, to their wisdom.
Yeah.
that they can pass on to us. I think, you know, girls especially are so vulnerable because of this disconnection to self that we're now experiencing on such a massive proportion, that bringing back these rites of passage where we can bring the women around them and really like fill them with loving education, words, honoring about wisdom that we wish we had known going into each of those next phases of our lives.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, and
it's so important. And, you know, I know when I was young, there was nothing.
No.
And it's definitely needs a change. And I love that you are bringing that out into the world. So for listeners who are interested in attending, do you have anything in the works at the moment, your women's circles, or do people contact you and you sort of, you do it, I guess, I don't know what the word is, ad hoc, I guess, when people need it, or how does it work?
Yeah, so the circles I'm not running at the moment just because of the chaos of life. But in regards to the rites of passage ceremonies, I can either come and do that in a setting within your family, so just for your daughter. I also organize them a couple of times a year for groups of girls that they can have, you know, either their mother or their grandmother come, or they could have both. And, you know, I do it in that kind of an environment. So all of those details are always available on my Facebook or my Instagram when I am running those. But yeah, they are such a beautiful thing. And I really wanted to, I guess, offer it in those different ways, because some girls aren't comfortable being around other girls talking about all of this, but they would happily do it around their family. And I think, you know, if there's a big group of women that want to share that wisdom, it's a beautiful thing. And you see it as well in like mother blessings coming back instead of a baby shower, is that, you know, blessing and honoring the mother in her transition. Yeah. You know, and, you know, the next one we go through is the menopausal one. Yeah. You know, it's like there's not a ceremony or like commonly to honor that next transition that women go through. And
it's such an enormous transition as well. And like when you're teenagers, it's obviously different, but it's one end of the scale to the other. So do you also do any sessions with those women who may be reaching or in the depths of menopause? Is there sort of remedies there and things that you can do to assist?
I do. I work with a lot of women going through menopause, and we do a lot of treatment around hot flushes, you know, like the physical stuff, but also what comes up for them mentally and emotionally, because it can be such a hard transitional time of, you know, and again, especially in the society that we're living in today, where, you know, maidenhood, your 20s, that is what is, you know, like, that is what the ultimate beauty is all based on, not the different phases that we go through in our lives. And so when women transition through menopause and they move away from their period, it's like this loss of self and identity, because you become more worthless in society's eyes. You know, and so a lot of that comes up for women. Like, who am I now? I don't have my children, so who am I? Where do I fit? Where's my place? Yeah. And so you can see a lot of this thing comes up with, you know, women accepting less than what they deserve, or women, you know, kind of going and, you know, seeking out a different life because they're trying to find their place in a world
it's that just filling a void in a way. Because the way that I like to explain it is, when you're a teenager, you kind of open the portal within your body to bring life into this world. You have you're connected to the divine, and you bring those souls through your body. And when you go through menopause, you kind of close that portal, and it's like cutting the cord, and it is a very difficult transition, like you said, for mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. But it's really coming to terms and accepting, a completely different life in a way, like, and finding that purpose, which is why so many women get to middle age and they just go off in a different direction and they really find themselves. And I guess that's a beautiful part of it. And a lot of them, you know, you access your intuition a lot easier and you're wiser, and there's so many different wonderful elements that can come with it. It's
absolutely
just
and it's about tapping into those, isn't it? It's about you know, women understanding that you are just coming into this different phase where your wisdom now needs to be imparted on those people that are younger than you. And, you know, how can you come in and guide and support the next generation rather than be discarded like you have been in so many, or you know, like society can discard you. You're too old. You have no relevance now.
And it's so important in this day and age to guide the younger generation. We can see on the news there's so many different things. There's youth crime is just through the roof. There's a lot of violence, there's anxiety, there's mental health, there's depression. It's just getting younger and younger in our children, and we need to do something now to change this for future generations. And so it's really important, I think, to get messages out there from women like yourself who are doing beautiful things with homeopathy and rites of passage, and exploring that and teaching our young girls to embrace every part of themselves.
Absolutely, because every single one of us has so much to offer, you know, and it's like, how can I help women find their unique gifts? How can I help them come back to their truest self without all this, you know, shit that they've picked up along the way from everyone else's judgments, from everyone else's opinions? You know, who are you truly? And like, when you start to, you know, pull back these layers that they've carried or that they've created as a response to what they've been through, and you watch them flourish, there is nothing better in my eyes. It just brings me so much happiness to just see women step into their power and be like, I have boundaries for the first time in my life. I can tell a guy to get stuffed if that's how I feel, instead of taking on, you know, like taking on his advances when I actually don't want them.
Yeah.
You know, or they can turn around and say, no, I told my family I'm sorry that doesn't work for me anymore. Or they have the confidence to walk in and get that job that they've always wanted that they didn't have before.
Yeah. I know, I'm the same. It's so awesome watching women blossom into their true selves and just share their journey with them. So look, I really enjoyed our conversation today. I think I was saying this to you before because we had quite a long chat before we started as well. I can chat to you all day. But look, we do need to kind of wrap things up a little bit. But before we go, what is one piece of advice that you could offer to women out there, I guess, to take away something from today? What would be your advice?
I think my biggest piece of advice for women is to connect with themselves. And I think that starts with our cycle, wherever we are, whether you're still cycling or not, is to really, really connect with yourself. So I offer a guide that, you know, connects you and teaches you about the different seasons of our cycle. And I think that is where I would encourage women to start, because it all starts there. And then, you know, if they have issues, there is so much other help available. You know, when it comes to mental health stuff, when it comes to how we feel, our confidence, there is a huge amount of stuff that homeopathy can do that is just beyond the scope of anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, and there's so many other women out there going through or have gone through the same thing. And it's normal to go through different phases and different emotions. And it's, look, I think it's beautiful what you're doing. And I think homeopathy. I don't want to say this, homeopathy. I think it's a great avenue for people who are going through sort of, I guess, changes or transitions, and where they might need a little bit of help outside of the, like we were saying, the pharmaceutical options. So look, thank you so much for coming on our show. For everyone out there listening today who wants to reach out to you and find out more, what's the best place to contact you?
Okay, so I have a website, so www.wildherblady.com, or on Instagram or Facebook as Wild Herb Lady.
Okay, beautiful. And I'll be putting the information in the bio below as well.
Amazing.
So look, thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge today. I've really enjoyed today's conversation. I'm sure the listeners will get a lot out of today's conversation. So thank you for all your wisdom, and hopefully we will see you again soon on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it so much.
Okay, thank you. And to all the listeners out there, we will be up with a new episode soon. Bye.